Hey guys, welcome to the Ethernet Blueprint. My name is Tim Trich. We are finally on video 4 of our series of setting up a Unifi network from start to finish. Now today's video, we are going to focus on the setup part. That's right, we're going to get your router online, adopt your devices, set up your network, and I'm going to show you just how fast and easy that process is. So let's get started. I am so excited to be recording this video today from my new Ethernet Blueprint lab space. Okay, so we got a little bit of work to do, but I am excited about it. Guys, we just started finishing my basement in my house. This area is going to be designated as my Ethernet Blueprint lab space where I'm going to be recording a lot of future videos. So I will take you along for the ride as that comes together. We are just getting that process started, so that's why it looks like this. Now, today's video, we are going to be focusing on the setup process. So if you have not watched the other videos in the series, you guys may want to go back and check that out, even if you're just skimming the material. But basically what you're going to learn in this series of videos is we show you step by step, start to finish, how to set up a Ubiquiti network in your home. That includes things like where to put low voltage cabling in your house, how to set up your network head-in where your router and switch and everything and all your cables are going to be pulled back to, how to connect an ISP, how to install an access point, how to mount this stuff. All this stuff is covered in this series. So if you skip that part and just got to this part, guys, I encourage you to go do that. If you're building a home, this is a really, really nice little blueprint you can follow to help you design your home the way you want it. Now, like I said, we are going to be doing the setup part of our network. So we have a UDM Pro 16-port switch and a wireless access point that we're going to be bringing online, setting up and getting working from start to finish. There is a list of things you are going to need before doing this on your own, okay? You are going to need a Ubiquiti account. So if you haven't ordered your equipment yet, you're just kind of seeing what goes along with this. Guys, you will create a Ubiquiti account when you order your equipment because most typically you will have to order it from the Ubiquiti website. That's just how they do things. They've kind of cut out the middleman where you just order direct. Okay, so you'll create an account to do that. You'll need those credentials to do the setup process because with Ubiquiti, all of your equipment is backed up in the cloud and you have remote access to everything, and which is one of the really nice factors about it. You can connect to your network from anywhere you have an internet connection, but you will need your Ubiquiti account to do this, to get things going. The second thing you're going to need is an active internet connection. So when we do our setup here, we have an internet connection go into our UDM Pro, so it is online. I think that makes things a little easier. It's going to allow the equipment to authenticate with the website. Now they do have an offline setup option, but I really don't recommend doing it. It is a lot more streamlined if you do it on when it's online. So guys, you're going to need an active internet connection for today's setup, so keep that in mind. The last thing I'm going to point out is today's setup is going to be done almost entirely on a smartphone, so you'll need the Unifi app as part of that. The Ubiquiti gear comes with Bluetooth installed, so when you're in close proximity to your equipment, it'll actually prompt you to start setting up your gear, which makes it, again, very quick and easy, which is the whole point of this video, just showing you how easy this is. So you will need a smartphone. Now, a little caveat, there are a few things that you just can't do in the smartphone version that you can do online, and I will try to point those out as we go along. And at the end of this video, please stay to the end. I will show you the computer version so you guys can see what that looks like and understand how to navigate your system so you can start playing with it right away. All right, we are to the good stuff. Let's get going, and I'm going to take you over to the smartphone. Let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Unifi app to get started. If you don't have that, you're going to need to download that to your phone. Now, when you click yours, it's going to ask you to log in. I have already logged into my account, so you will need to log into yours. Now, as you can see, I'm standing close to the machine. It did find the device. I have Bluetooth activated in my phone. I don't have to connect my Bluetooth to it like you do a pair of earbuds. It just goes out and looks for it and finds it, and then we're going to go ahead and hit setup to get going. All right, it's going to go ahead and connect. This won't take long. All right, on this first screen, we're going to go ahead and rename our device. It's really up to you on whether or not you want to do that. Just for this video, I'm going to go ahead and do it. We'll just call it UB Dream and hit return, and then we're going to say next. Now, before I hit next, I do want to point out real quick on this screen that you see restore from backup. If you ever have any issues with your UDM Pro and you have to factory wipe it, you do not lose your settings. We're going to make sure that you have automatic backups happening on your device, and then you can simply just restore from a backup and everything will come back to life. Or if your machine dies and you buy a new UDM, you can also restore from a backup, so you don't have to start from square one, okay? So since this is our first time setting it up, we're going to go ahead and say next, and it's going to check our internet speed. All right, there's our results. We'll go ahead and say next. You can skip that by Xing out of it on the thing. You don't have to let it test your speed. It kind of sets up some preferences inside the system with the results of your speed test. Okay, on the next one, it's going to go ahead and just talk to your device and find out what it needs. Does it need firmware? You know, what's going on in your device? A lot of times these devices have been sitting on shelves for a long time, and so they do require some firmware updates. So we'll go ahead and see what mine is going to need here. Okay, setup complete. And that is that. Now, if your device needs firmware, it will go ahead and download that automatically and install the most current version. So your process that we just watched could take a little bit longer, 5, 10, 15 minutes. It is a little bit of a process just depending on how old or outdated the firmware is on your machine. As you can see, mine just went ahead and came right to it. So this is the main screen of the UDM Pro. You have a couple things to kind of take note of. You can run a speed test right there in the middle of your screen. We have a topology, which right now we're just Verizon to the Dream Machine Pro because we haven't added any devices yet, which I'll show you how to do. There's an AR thing, which actually I'll show you how that works. It's really, really cool if you have some of the newer switches, and I'll show you how that works too. You can see at the top, there's a little message that we have 2 devices to adopt. So when you adopt a device, you're basically adding that piece of equipment into your system, and whatever configuration you've set up on here will automatically be deployed to those devices. So if you added an access point and you had a Wi-Fi network name and everything all set up already, that access point, when you adopt it, it'll come into the system, grab an IP address, and learn everything it needs to learn. And from there, you can update the firmware and do all sorts of stuff. It really is a single point of presence to manage your entire network, which is something they've done very, very well. As the bottom of your screen, you'll see some navigation buttons. So right now we're on the dashboard screen. I can click on my devices screen. That's there. This is my client screen. We don't have any clients connected. And a client would be like a laptop, a cell phone, whatever. We don't have a network created, so we don't have any of that stuff set up. There's some statistics and insights, which we don't have any traffic yet. And as you can see, you can kind of click through those type of deals. And then there's the actual settings, which we will come back into here to get our settings set up because we're going to set up some of these settings as part of this process. So real quick, just so you know, you can go to the main screen here, the dashboard, and click adopt at the top, or I can come to my devices screen and click on my devices that are ready for adoption. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my switch first and choose adopt device and let that process happen. Now, one of the things I do like about Ubiquiti is it tells you what it's doing. So you can see that it says getting ready. So basically what that means is the switch has been added to the system and now it's going down and pulling all your configurations, any VLANs you have, port settings you have, descriptions, whatever else, it's learning that information. So we just have a basic default configuration right now. We haven't set anything up yet, but it still is pulling down the defaults into its system, and it goes green when it's done. Now, one thing I like about it, like for example, when we update an access point, it tells you that it's updating. It's downloading, it's updating, and then it's getting ready. I like that. I like knowing what's going on with my equipment while I'm configuring it. It's just really handy as opposed to hitting an update button and nothing really happens. Maybe a light starts flickering on the device, but just a lot of systems, of basic systems out there, don't really tell you what they're doing. And I like the visibility that you get with Ubiquiti. So let's go ahead and adopt our access point, which is this UAP Flex HD. Now we're going to go ahead and set up some settings. Now, one thing I want to kind of point out here is I could have done the settings first and then adopted everything later. That the choice is really yours. You don't have to do this in any particular order. As we set up the settings, the devices will automatically learn those settings. We don't have to tell them to go learn them. They'll just realize that we've made a config change when we hit save, and they'll automatically update. So the first thing I want to go do is just kind of show you around the settings screen, and then we'll go ahead and create some Wi-Fi and whatnot. So to get to the settings screen, I'm going to go ahead and click on the gear, and you can see everything kind of listed here. So the Wi-Fi, obviously that's where we're going to set up our Wi-Fi networks. Networks would be if you just chose to set up some VLANs. Now, I'm not going to go into VLANs on this video, but if you look at my video from last week, let's set up some VLANs. I talk about how to create VLANs, how to secure your network. Everything's done in that video, so it doesn't make sense to do it here, but I encourage you guys to go look at that if one of the reasons you're looking at Ubiquiti is to have VLANs. The next one is just our internet. So if we click into there, it just allows us to identify what ports we want as our internet ports. We get a couple. You can set up load balancing. You can set up failover in here. Lots of really cool advanced settings that you can do. All right. VPN, which we're not going to go into, but if you go into the VPN, it does allow you to set up a VPN server, VPN site, or a client. You can do site-to-site VPN. Teleport allows you to access your device from anywhere. They really have they've made VPN very easily. You can use WireGuard, all sorts of VPN clients out there. So it really is a nice little setup. They've done a good job. Application firewall, we're going to go in we might cover some of this, but basically you can set up specific traffic rules. If you have, say, an Xbox and you need to set up some port forwarding, that's done in here. You can see the port forwarding right there, and then you can quickly get to firewall rules as well from here. Routing is just routing, profiles, just some general stuff, creating IP groups. A lot of that stuff is touched in the concept of VLANs in that video. Your system is just some general system things. Do you want light or dark mode? What country or region you in? Do you want to turn on notifications? Things like that. But the one thing I want to point out here is backups. Now, we do have, by default, Ubiquiti turns this on by default. It will create backups every month on the first of the month at 12:30. If you wanted to do it more often than that, you can do it. You can have it create backups every day. And then basically set a max number of files. I only want it to keep 7. So it's going to keep 7 of my most recent backups, but it'll back up every day. If you're going to set this thing up and then not touch it for a long time, then, maybe a month is okay. So the choice is yours. Lots of options here. And then basically however you choose to set this part up will determine how many files you have to choose from when you say restore from a backup. Okay. So that's kind of how this is determined and how old that backup will be. So I'm going to go ahead and say cancel. There's some advanced stuff in here. We don't really need to get into it too much, but Wi-Fi Man is just an app, a tool, a third-party Ubiquiti app. It's not really third-party, a Ubiquiti app that communicates with their devices and can do floor plans and check signals. And really, it's a great tool. I recommend you guys downloading it as well. Really cool. Now, there is some limited stuff in here. As you can see at the bottom, you can access more settings from the website. That's how to get to the website from any computer. You'll simply go to that URL at the bottom of the screen here and log in with your Ubiquiti account, and everything that we're setting up here will be present right in front of you. Super easy. I am going to talk about the console though. So the console is the UDM Pro itself. The UDM Pro is a physical device that's acting as a network controller. So if you look at the top here, you can see your UDM Pro can do multiple things. There's connect, there's talk, there's protect, which is cameras. So the console itself is the box. So when you're in these settings, you're talking about updating the physical device of the UDM Pro. And then inside that is the network application, which you can see is up to date. However, the network application requires updates as well. So you can both update. You're going to be updating multiple things. You'd be updating firmware on a device. So like your access point, your switch will have firmware upgrades. There is the network application itself, which is the controller software that's running on your UDM Pro. And then there's the actual firmware and OS version that is on your UDM Pro running. So there's 3 kind of areas that update. The good news is you can set it up to auto update, as you see at the bottom of the screen there. I don't typically do that. The IT guy in me says automatic updates are never a good thing. But if you want to just kind of make this easy on yourself and you're not really concerned about it breaking stuff on you from an update that has bugs in it or whatnot, then by all means you can set it in there, set it as automatic update. I know a lot of people that do that and they rarely run into any problems. Now in here, you'll notice you have a little drop down here. There's all sorts of stuff in here. You can set up admins if you need multiple people to be able to access this machine. For example, if you wanted my help in managing your system and you and I had something worked out, you could actually add me as a user or administrator, and then I would be able to access your system based off when you want me to. So really cool for bringing on third-party people. This is just another area to get to my Unifi devices, my console settings. So if I go into the console settings, I can rename my console, which we called the EB Dream. I could rename it there, pick my time zone. You can see the system config backup is going on there, but I can manually run one. And then also, this is how you'd factory reset your device if you ever had to do that. Or enable SSH. You can see that checkbox there. So if you're the type of person like to SSH into your box and set configurations that way, a little more advanced, this is where you turn that on. And then there's just a system log about just what's going on in your box. Storage is specifically talking about if you have a hard drive in the UDM Pro for your cameras, and then the about is just the about. So that is a quick tour of the setup. Let's go ahead and get some configurations done. I'm going to set up a Wi-Fi network first. Go in here. I'm going to click Add New. We're going to call this EB Wi-Fi. Okay. All right. We're going to set the password to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Don't do that, guys. That is not what you want to do. The default network, that would be like VLANs. So if you had any VLANs set up, you could click here and they would be listed here for you to choose, you know, kids network, IoT network, whatever. So right now we don't have any other network, so we're just doing the default. Which access points you're going to use. So you could do specific access points. You could broadcast this name on a specific access point. Let me give you an example real quick. That would be like, I've done some one where we have outdoor Wi-Fi, maybe around a pool, and we don't want the devices in the home communicating with that access point accidentally because their speeds would slow down. So what we would do is we set up a pool Wi-Fi network and we only broadcast that network on that outdoor AP, and all the indoor APs have the normal name of the Wi-Fi, and that way your indoor devices stay connected indoors, and your outdoor devices, when you're around the pool, connect to that pool access point. Now, you do have to change SSIDs, but it does help the cross, it does help with devices not talking to things through your exterior walls, which can affect your speed. So that's just an example here. You can set up AP groups, first floor, second floor, whatever. Sky's the limit here. And then under the advanced configuration, there's a bunch of stuff in here. The one thing I want to point out here is maybe band steering. If you are only planning on having one Wi-Fi name in your home, okay, so like we're just doing EB Wi-Fi. That EB Wi-Fi, as you can see right above it, on the Wi-Fi band, it's doing both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. With band steering turned on, it is going to try to have my devices, it's going to prioritize and tell them you should connect to the 5 gigahertz. It's going to try and push my devices to use 5 gigahertz. Now that's a great feature for stuff that works on. But if you have like smart plugs and some really simple dumb devices, a lot of maybe garage door openers and some things like that, they typically struggle with that, especially devices that don't have a 5 gigahertz network in there. And so typically I recommend turning off band steering. And if you want to force your devices to use 5 gigahertz, we can create a 5 gigahertz only network, and I'll show you how to do that next. You can set Wi-Fi speed limits if you'd like. Don't need to. Multicast enhancement, client isolation. There's just all sorts of things you can do. You can schedule your Wi-Fi down at the bottom to only come on at certain times. Again, I don't really know why you would do that, but maybe the kids network only broadcasts certain times of the day for their devices. Lots of ways to tackle that. I typically like fast roaming turned on, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on, and I'm going to go say save. And when I apply changes, now quickly, I'm going to go over to my devices, and you can see that my Wi-Fi access point is already learning its Wi-Fi name. You can see it's getting ready. It's pulling that information down. The second I hit save, it learns it. If I have 20 access points in here, they would all learn it based off of whether or not they were in the group of access points that that Wi-Fi name was broadcasting on. And so it's really, really cool that you just really don't have to do anything in there. So real quick, I'm going to add another new network. We're just going to call this EB Wi-Fi space, whoops, not 4, 5G. Okay, same password. Okay, 1 through 9. We're going to choose the default network, broadcasting all APs. Then under manual, I'm going to come down here and under Wi-Fi band, I'm going to say only do 5 gigahertz and hit my back button. Now, this one is only doing 5 gigahertz. Now, this is really great for Rokus and Fire Sticks and smart TVs. If you want to force them to use that faster Wi-Fi band, then this is where you can go to do that. And I really do recommend doing that as a nice. It's just a nice feature to do that on. And then we're going to go ahead and say save. All right. So you can see we got our 2 networks. Our access point has already learned it. None of my clients have connected to it. But while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and connect my laptop to one of the networks here just to show you what a device looks like when it's connected. So we'll go ahead and I will connect to the first one that pops up, EB Wi-Fi. We're going to say connect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And I'll go ahead and hit say connect. All right. And as you can see, it went from no clients to excellent. Now, what it means by excellent is that the Wi-Fi experience, that's something that Ubiquiti has kind of coined. They've basically listed or identified the experience that your Wi-Fi devices are having while communicating in your network. So my laptop's really close to my access point, so it's basically saying its experience is really great. If I click into this access point now, we get some more details. We can see what channels we're on. We're on 2.4 channel 6, and on 5 gigahertz, we're on channel 48. You can see there's a client connected to this, and it's having an excellent experience. And then you can see the details about this access point down here, which Wi-Fi names it's broadcasting, which version it's on, its Wi-Fi access IP address, sorry. Which port it's connected into the switch. It actually tells you which port it's connected into. So again, once you're in this ecosystem here, it really does, everything kind of just ties into each other really well. So on that note, let me click into the switch here, and you can see if I go to my switch ports here and I can kind of scroll across the screen, my UDM Pro is plugged into port 15 and my access point is plugged into port 1. And you can see the little lightning bolt there with a plus symbol next to it. That means it's booted up with PoE plus power. Okay, so you can see that that is down here and it's telling me what my wattage I'm using, all sorts of cool stuff. You can get some insights about what your devices are, what your switch is up to. You can go into settings about your switch. I can rename it. So let's just say we want this to just be called switch. I can do that here, hit save. And as you can see, if I go back to my devices here, my switch has been renamed. It shows up on the list as switch and it's getting ready. It's learning that its name is switch. Okay. So when I go into my UDM Pro, I can see that on port 8 is what my switch is connected into. And if I click on it, you can see it's connected to switch, what we just renamed this to. So everything kind of learns everything. It's really, really nice and kind of fun to play around with, guys. It really is a nice little system. They've done a good job over there. And that's why one of the reasons I really, really like it. Now, in all fairness, in all honesty, we could be done right now. We've created a Wi-Fi network. We have a default network. Our devices can connect to it. If I go to clients, you can see there's my Surface that's connected to it. You can see what Wi-Fi network it's connected to, which, by the way, you can sort these devices. You can choose what you want it to display in here. All sorts of really, really cool stuff. Just lots of neat things to do it. I can rename this device. So let's say I don't want this called HCS Surface. I want to name this device something else. I can go into the settings for that device and click on it and rename it. Just a lot of cool things so you can actually document your network, know what everything is, which again, I really recommend doing that so if something does pop in that's a little weird, you know it's weird because you know which devices you have connected. And once you have devices connected, your other stuff will come to life. You're going to see what websites are most active. You're going to see what type of traffic is happening. You're just going to see all sorts of things. That is really it as far as setup goes. That's it. There, you can go into a lot more detail. There's VLANs and other stuff, VPN setups. We can go crazy. Those are other videos. This video is just about taking the design that you did, how you built your rack, is your stuff sitting on a shelf, all the stuff we went through in these other videos, and culminating into a setup video that allows you to quickly set up your new gear with a smartphone, which is really, really cool, and it makes it very, very fast. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. Before I leave, I am going to switch over to the web browser, and I'm going to record a little bit there. I'm going to show you around that just so you can see some of the differences between the smartphone and what it looks like on there. Because a lot of times, the smartphone's great for a quick config or something, but most of the stuff I do is on a laptop or something because it's easier to navigate than on a tiny screen. But in a pinch, this thing really does come in handy because I can log into other clients' devices from my smartphone and just look at traffic really quick or whatnot. So it is a really, really great and cool tool. Now, one of the things I am going to show you guys here real quick is this AR function. Now, I'm going to show you on my personal switch. Actually, I don't know if it'll let me do that since I'm not logged in on it. Let me see. But if I click this AR, if you look at your UDM Pro, it's got this like little floating dot screen on the interface. Now, if I click this AR, you can see that it's making us go back and forth to calibrate. Now it's saying, put that little thing in your box. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and now, hit next, and now, as you hover over, you can see what devices are connecting where. It kind of gives you this little augmented reality virtual look at your devices. So if you had multiple things plugged in, you could see that. Really, really neat. And if your switch is on the newer one, my switch is older. See, the older ones have just kind of a little interface like that. But it'll actually tell you all of the stuff that you have plugged in your network and where it is. Really, really cool. So that's what the AR thing is. I kind of just wanted to show you that. So real quick, I'm going to switch over to the computer interface, and we're going to wrap things up and turn you loose with your journey. Hey guys, if you're still with me, thanks for sticking in there. So I just wanted to kind of go over the web interface a little bit just to give you, I mean, this is probably what you use more often, and just talk about maybe some of the differences that you can get to and not get to. There are some settings in here that are only specific to the web interface. So this time the settings kind of go down the side of the page, and then to get to your console settings, that's actually done by getting here. They call it the OS settings, and there's those exact settings we were talking about and seeing inside the phone. So that's all about, that's all very similar to what you have now. So we'll click on the little network icon. That allows me to get to network. If you had protect and some of the other ones, you would be able to click in there and get to those as well. So this is our main dashboard. You can see it looks fairly similar to the web interface. If we go to the topology, you can see what's going on here. Now up in this little corner, this was that little show internet traffic thing. So I can actually come over here and it'll actually show, you can see down here the little visual of what traffic I have on there. So if I connect my phone to this network, let's see if I can do that real quick. And then, okay, so as you can see, a device popped in right here. This is my cell phone. I connected to the network. So let me go and run a speed test real quick and see if I can generate some traffic. So now, as you can see, that's where the traffic's going. It's switched over to my Apple iPhone 13, and it's showing that that's using a bulk of my data, but my Surface really isn't using much at all. All it's really using is to access Ubiquity's website. So it's really a nice little visual. And if you have 30 devices and you want to see what's, maybe hogging the bandwidth or what's being utilized or whatnot, this is a great way to do it. And it's just done with this little play symbol up here. And you can change your display options so it shows certain things, certain devices a certain way, all sorts of cool stuff. So you actually get some really nice information down here. So that's kind of a cool thing that's only specific to this. Here's your devices. So again, you can click in the access point if we want to name it. It pops up a little box over here. You can choose settings, and we can just call this the AP. That way you have a name for it. One thing I will point out to you guys here, as far as Wi-Fi speeds goes, one of the questions I get a lot is, how do I make my Wi-Fi go faster, right? So this channel width right here is a big factor in that, when basically it's how wide a band your Wi-Fi is using, which means the wider the band, the more traffic can go through there. And so by changing these settings, you can actually make your devices go a little bit faster. So on the 2.4, for example, you can see it's using 20, and on 5 gigahertz, it's using 40. For the channel width. If you want to tweak your settings and give yourself a little more speed, you can go ahead and switch these to these devices, or to these settings here. Also in here, you can adjust your transmit power. So right now I have them set to auto, but for example, go back to my pool access point example I used earlier, a lot of times I'll turn the power way down on an outdoor access point, especially if the pool's right there and it's really close, because you don't need to be blasting this stuff into your neighbor's house. So a lot of times I'll turn the power down specifically on a specific access point or something like that in certain cases. But for the most part, I just leave everything as auto. I do like my 5 gigahertz on the 80 megahertz band. I think it just makes things faster. But the downside to this is you leave yourself more open to interference on your network. So you might have to fine tune which channels your devices are using to ensure you're not getting interference from your neighbors. Okay, so I hit save, and you can see immediately my device started learning it learned its new name, and it's learning the settings I just set right here in this device. So I'll go ahead and close that. Now another cool thing, so we got our clients in here, so you can see the devices that are connected. This is a port mapper, so if you go into the ports, you used to be able to get there by clicking multiple things to get here. Now they've added its own button, which I really like. This is all ports we have, so this is showing every hot port that I have on my network. You can see 2 are on the Dream Machine, 2 are on my Switch, and if I had more devices, you can see all ports, all of them that are in use, all that are available, all the ones that are providing PoE. I mean, just all sorts of really cool things you can do it. You can look specifically just at your Switch. So if you want to see that, really, really nice visual representation of what's going on in your network. And I think they've done a good job with it. This is kind of a new thing where you can kind of adjust your radios. I haven't played with this too much. So I'm not going to go into it on this video, but supposedly you can it's supposedly designed to help you plan your radio coverage in your network, which is, I don't know. I like doing it the old-fashioned way. So if we click in here, this is your gateway. So this is kind of some traffic. If you have any filtering, where your traffic is coming from, it'll actually tell you which countries, so you can actually block countries. So right now, my devices have talked to Alaska and the United States. As it starts talking to more things, you can, they'll show up on here. If there's someone like Russia that you want to block or something, or Ukraine or whatever, you want to block it, I believe you can click on it and choose block, and it'll block traffic from that country. So there is a limitation. I've had people say they wish they could block every country but the United States. It'll let you block up to 150 countries. So pick your 150 bad ones, and you can click on each one and just block them, and it basically will automatically block that traffic, which is kind of cool. Here's your system log, so it's telling you like what's happened from adoption, who's logged in, updates that have been done, AP thing, any triggers that have been set up, and then here's our settings where we were earlier. Not much different in here for the most part. There is some settings that do come to life as you click in here. This looks a little bit different between teleport, VPN server, which again, there's WireGuard, OpenVPN. They are getting rid of L2TP. So that's going to go away at some point. So if you want to do VPN, I'd recommend OpenVPN or WireGuard. You can set up your clients with those. You can set up a site-to-site VPN. If you have multiple UDM Pros, they'll automatically see each other. If you have multiple UDM Pros on your account, they'll automatically see each other, and you can just say, set up a site VPN between this one and that one, and they'll just connect, and it's done. I mean, it really is super, super simple. Traffic rules. You can block certain things, like certain kind of apps. So I can block an app or an app group or an IP address. That's all kind of done in here. This is more specific to traffic, not necessarily firewall rules. Here's that port forwarding that we talked about, setting up maybe some Xbox rules, or if you have a web server at home, you can do that. And then here's your actual firewall rules, which I'm in here a ton in my other video. Again, routing, we're just going to allow all routing, but we can set static routes if you have some, or you can talk about, you can set up specific traffic. Not really much to go over in there. Profiles, this is kind of that area we're talking about where we create IP groups. So if you want to create a device group or something like that to set firewall rules on, you can do that there. And then here's our system. So this is more like, do you want the dark mode? Let me just go ahead and change that. So now you got dark mode. Here's how to do some updates. Backups are set up in here. Again, everything's set to auto right now. And then some advanced settings that you can do in here as well, including your SSH login authentication. So that right here, if you enable SSH, this is where you'd come in and set up your SSH password, username and password to SSH into your equipment. And then you can see your version number down here. So guys, really, really cool. You can see why I really like this setup, this device. They've done a good job. I hope this helps you. I hope this gets you excited about having a home network. The days of just needing to put a router in the corner or using your ISP router are done. They're just done. Those days are gone. We've outgrown those devices, and I think ISPs are trying to catch up. I see a lot of them, deploying their own little mesh networks or partnering with third-party people to have mesh networks in houses. And mesh is fine, but if you're building it, guys, put the wires in place, get them there. You don't have to do access points day one, but you may decide that the mesh just isn't cutting it. And if you have the wires in place, guys, you can move to something like this anytime down the road, and it's super, super easy. So like I said, I hope this is helpful. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into the series, and we will see you guys in a future video.